All right, guys, so this is a story about how I believe, at least in my lifetime, we will never see a majority of black people not vote for Democrats, okay? Unless something crazy happens, right? Unless something crazy happens, we will never, ever, ever see it. Now, I know some of you guys are probably thinking, why are you saying this? What makes you come out and say this? Well, the reason why is because I just simply don't believe it's possible to unbrainwash a lot of black people who feel the need to vote for the Democrat Party no matter what. Even if they know they're getting screwed over by Democrats, even if they know that Democrats never fulfill their promises, they simply will not stop voting for them because of those racist, evil Republicans, okay? And again, this story right here featuring Mr. Luther Luke Campbell, aka Uncle Luke, okay, the guy that made a career rapping about booty and breasts, right? That guy, he posed a question that you hear a whole lot of people posing today, right, about Democrats and Democrat Party, which is, why the hell should we keep voting for these people, right? Why should we keep voting for the Democrats, considering that they never fulfill their promises? And look at the state of the country right now, right? Inflation, gas prices, border crisis, crime crisis, foreign policy crisis on all fronts, right? Why should we keep voting for them is what he asked, right? Basically, in a nutshell. And he got flamed for it, right, by Jemele Hill and Joy Reid, right? And then he subsequently went off on Jemele Hill and Joy Reid, basically in a rant in which you would think, just listening to that rant by itself, that this guy is seeing the light, right? That this guy is probably going to not vote Democrat in the midterms in 2024 because he knows that Democrats are just full of empty promises and that they really are more harm than they are good for black people, okay? However, that seems to not be the case, right? He seems to have folded to the mob, okay, after coming out here and questioning the Democrat Party, which really is an unspeakable sin within the black community, right? That's what it seems. Well, put it this way, among woke black liberals, that is, right? People like Jemele Hill and Joy Reid, right? The bougie blacks, right? It is unspeakable, right? It is unheard of to question the Democrat Party, okay? But that is what Uncle Luke did, and unfortunately, he got put in his place for it, and I want to talk about this because this is a sad, sad, sad situation for him, as it seems that he allowed himself to be silenced and castrated by two woke women who have zero relevance among black people, to be quite honest with you. So let's actually read his tweet that started off all this drama, okay? He says, give me 5 reasons why black people should vote in the next election. Give me 5 black promises that have been fulfilled by politicians in the last election, mayor and president. Okay, so here's the thing, right? There's 2 ways to interpret this question, okay? There's the positive way to interpret it, right? In the sense that it's like, well, let's tell black people all the reasons why they should vote in the next election. Because there's plenty of promises that the politicians have made that have been kept, right, for black folks, okay? That's the first way to interpret it. However, nobody's interpreting it that way because everybody knows that that's not true, right? Everybody knows that's not true. So automatically, people are going to interpret this in a negative light, right? It's criticism of the Democrat Party because black people mostly, overwhelmingly, like 95%, vote for Democrats, right? And Jemele Hill responded accordingly. She says, serious question, how will not voting help? And then some guy responded to her and said, how will voting help? Has it helped in the past? Which, I mean, that's a good question. Has voting helped in the past, right? Or put it this way, in the last, 20, 30 years? Has voting helped? I'll argue that it probably hasn't. Not on a national level. On the local level, yes, absolutely. You can have an impact on your local community by voting at the local level. That definitely is important, right? But national level, I'm not necessarily sure. Unless you look at Trump, right? In which Trump had the lowest black unemployment rate in history, right? Under Trump, right? So who knows? I'm just saying maybe more black folks should have voted for Trump, right? If you want to talk about how has it helped, okay? But anyways, Jemele Hill says, how do you think civil rights happened? It happened because of legislation. It was signed into law. That's politics. Much of your entire quality of life happened because of legislation. I'm glad Jemele Hill brought this up, right? Because I hope she knows that the Civil Rights Act, both of them, were passed primarily because of Republicans, right? The 1957 Civil Rights Act signed into law by Republican President Dwight D. Eisenhower, was mostly backed by Republicans from a percentage standpoint in Congress, okay? And same with the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which was signed by Democratic President Lyndon B. Johnson, okay? However, in the actual House, right, in the Senate, more Republicans as a percentage voted in favor of the act than the Democrats, right? In fact, Democrats, Strom Thurmond, the so-called Dixiecrat, right, the Southern Democrat, actually filibustered the Civil Rights Act, okay? He filibustered. So the Democrats filibustered, okay? Now they come out here and call the filibuster racist. However, they're the ones, their party actually used it for racist means, right? The Republicans overwhelmingly supported the Civil Rights Act, right? So maybe, again, if black people actually were paying attention to who voted for what when it comes to civil rights, maybe they should be voting for Republicans at 95% clip, okay? Because the Civil Rights Act, and after that passed, that basically is what changed the dynamic of black people from voting Republican, which black people used to do historically is vote Republican, to voting Democrat, right? But for whatever reason, history gets lost in the sauce. So Joy Reid responded as well too, okay, to this question, and she unsurprisingly doesn't really answer the question. She says, because without a sizable black vote, the Republicans who take over will, one, further roll our voting rights. That's not true. Nobody's voting rights is under attack. Okay, evidenced by the fact that more black people voted in history during the Georgia primary, okay, and Democrats as well too, right? It was a record number of people, okay? No voting rights are being eroded away. Ban our history books in school. That's not happening. Enact forced birth laws that disproportionately target black women, aka enact laws that is going to help increase the black population as a percentage, which has not happened in a long time, okay, because Planned Parenthood actually targets black women. Criminalize our right to protest. That's not happening either. And cut our access to healthcare. I don't think that's happening as well either, right? So you notice how all the reasons she gave was, well, Republicans are bad, right? Nothing good about Democrats. No promises that they actually fulfilled or anything like that. Just Republicans are bad. Again, then she went on to say a whole bunch of stuff that really does not answer the question, okay, in terms of what have they actually accomplished. And basically says, look, you got to vote for Biden anyways, right? You just got to vote for Biden. You just got to vote for Democrats. Don't question it. So with that being said, Uncle Luke actually responds to Joy Reid and Jemele Hill and actually goes off on the fact that they thought that he was telling black folks not to vote, okay? Let's take a look.
Yo, what up? This your boy, Uncle Luke. I guess I went viral today. I asked a simple question, and the usual suspects did what? Try to change the narrative. Here's the question, simple as fuck. Give me 5 reasons why black people should vote in the next election. And then the second part of the question was, give me 5 black promises that has been fulfilled by politicians for black people, whether it's mayor or president. My homegirl Jemele Hill and Joy Reid took it out of context. Oh, Luther, you're telling people not to vote. Where in the fuck did I tell somebody not to vote? Please go look at the tweet. And then I went and did a whole space. And I DM'd them and invited them to come talk in the space. Crickets. We had 2,000 people in the space talking about this very topic. And I'm still trying to figure out where in the fuck did I say don't vote? That's the usual suspect y'all telling on yourself. Don't tell on yourself. Don't do it. You're telling on yourself. Why we can't hold elected officials accountable? All you had, the simple answer to the question was, Luke, here's their 5 reasons, and here's 5 more reasons why we should be voting. And Luke, here are 5 things that they did. But you can't. I would love to hear it. Don't come for me. Don't come for me. Come for yourself.
Yeah, so if you listen to this, right, this sounds like a man that is waking up, okay? Because he literally just told us, he said, yeah, these people are revealing themselves for what they actually are, which are Democrat Party operatives. That's what they are, okay? Who don't want you to question anything about why in the hell should black people continue to vote for Democrats, even though black folks ain't got nothing for it, right? They still complaining about systemic racism, and they've been voting for Democrats for 40, 50 plus years, okay? This guy is questioning it, and they come out here and attack him for it, okay? I mean, he didn't even pose the question in a way in which it was obvious that he was criticizing the Democrat Party, okay? But they just automatically assumed that the guy was telling people not to vote when that's not what he was saying at all. Right? And again, in this response to this, he's pissed off because he knows what is happening. He knows he's been unfairly characterized, right? Unfairly smeared. Happens all the time. Happens all the time. Okay? But again, overall, if you listen to this dude talk, he sounds like a guy that's thinking about not voting for Democrats in the midterms, okay? And maybe even vote Republican. Who knows? Who knows? But what happens next, guys, is one of the main problems in the black community, right? And one of the reasons why we can't get ahead is because we let liberal black women run the show, right? These guys fall in line behind the liberal black woman, and that has really hurt us because this guy is completely castrated, okay? Because he stood his ground, and then he obviously fell to the woke mob because he came out here just a couple days later, 2 days later, after that rant, and told people, Georgia, to get in line, right, and go vote for Stacey Abrams. He says, I truly believe that she's going to do something special for black people in Georgia. Again, this is the same party he's telling people to vote for that he just questioned and said, what are they doing for black people, right? What promises have they kept? He knows they haven't kept any, but yet a couple days later, after being flamed by Joy-Ann Reid and Jemele Hill, he comes out here and stomps for Stacey Abrams. Come on, man. Come on, bro. No respect whatsoever. Then he comes out here and he says, don't get it twisted, people. My 4 big sisters I never had, Jemele Hill, Joy-Ann Reid, Jackie Charles, Lord help me if they call a scribe on me. I love these women. They are some of the most intelligent women on earth. They know their ish when we debate its family. No, they actually don't know anything. They don't know anything. I don't know why you call them your big sisters. They're not the most intelligent women on earth, and you actually might be one of the dumbest dudes on earth for saying that, right? You clearly showing, again, the problems of the black community. The black man, right, when he starts to think, okay, for himself and say, you know what, I'm not necessarily sure about this liberal narrative, right? I'm not sure about this Democrat Party narrative that says we have to vote for them because Republicans are evil and bad and racist. I'm not necessarily sure about all that, okay, considering their track record. This guy immediately falls back in line just because some liberal black women criticize him for it. Again, this is a weak man, right? He's a weak black man right here, okay? This is what it is. But again, this happens all too often. I'm just keeping it 100 with you, right? I'm just keeping it 100. Then this guy says, it's funny how I asked the question Sunday, what promises have been kept by POTUS and the mayor? I get jumped on by Joy-Ann Reid and Jemele Hill and other. Yesterday, the president says George Floyd executive order bill. I guess someone was reading the comments at the White House. Okay. So then he says, I guess someone from the White House was reading the comments from my Sunday post. When you hold these people's feet to the fire, you will get something done. If you don't, you won't. Good job, POTUS. Now let's talk about your infrastructure bill. How can black contractors get in? You mean the same thing that Trump promised, right? With the Platinum Plan, which is just the infrastructure bill in which Trump promised that black contractors would get a good portion of it, right? The idea that Trump came up with. But anyways, this guy, again, apparently is not educated enough in politics to understand that Joe Biden literally signed that executive order, involving police reform simply to grandstand on George Floyd's grave on the 2nd anniversary of his death. Because if Democrats really wanted police reform, they could have compromised with Tim Scott on the things that he signed via that executive order, right? He could have compromised with Tim Scott on that. But he chose not to. Why? Because it won't look good for the Democrats to compromise with Republicans on that. It will look better for them just to wait and do an executive order on the 2nd anniversary of George Floyd's death, and idiots like this guy fell for it. He fell for it. Oh, look, they read my tweet. They read my comments. No, they didn't read your comments. They had this planned out probably the first day Biden got in office. They was like, we're going to do this bill on the anniversary of George Floyd's death, right? Again, this is why I have no faith that black people and our voting patterns and habits will ever change, right? Even though we had some signs they might change, under Trump, Okay, there was some smart black men in particular that went out there and said, you know what, I'm not falling for the nonsense anymore. You know, I'm actually going to vote for the other party or not vote at all, right? Whatever. Okay? But it's not enough. Now, that's not to say black folks might not ever, switch over and might, vote 30-70, right? 70% for Democrats, 30% for Republicans, which would be enough to devastate the Democrats. But I'm just saying, things like this, interactions like this, again, is why I don't have that much faith. Because some of these guys, when they actually do see the light, they let the liberal black woman come in and basically turn the lights off for them, right? And not let them think for themselves, okay? Again, it's really a shame. It really is. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a black conservative perspective. Peace.